I want to talk a moment about something that's usually not discussed, I don't believe, in this course, and that is how society's conventions are in flux just before, during, and after the Great War. By conventions in flux, I mean those traditional ideas are sort of up in the air. And I'm talking about across the gamut of human endeavor here, from art to science, politics to economics. Old verities are kind of, well, they're being questioned. There's some doubt. And everything is sort of up in the air. We haven't settled or decided. So I'm just going to give you a few examples of this. In science, we have Einstein. Einstein creates a dramatic paradigm shift in how we understand our place in the universe, how we understand time and space. Newtonian physics, or if not overturned, at least modulated to some degree, and Einstein opens doors to the rest of the 20th century in physics. Another example is economics. The old idea about laissez-faire economics, sort of a secular faith in the United States, certainly, the idea that the government has no business in your economic affairs. We heard Alexis de Tocqueville talk about this when we discussed American exceptionalism. Laissez-faire is going to be, if not overturned, then at least severely challenged. John Maynard Keynes, a British economist, suggests that the government does have a role in our economic affairs. And we'll see this played out, of course, in the 1930s during the Great Depression. President Roosevelt, consciously or not, will implement many of the ideas proposed by Keynes in using government to stimulate the economy. So laissez-faire is coming under attack in literature, and you can see this for yourself. You could open Huckleberry Finn to any page and begin reading and be quite comfortable with it. The perspective, the characters, the dialogue, narration, all of it would be very comfortable to you. Now here in the early 20th century, we have literature emerging that you would not be comfortable with. It would not be clear who is speaking or what is being spoken about. I can give you a couple of examples. Here in the United States, of course, we have William Faulkner. Faulkner from Mississippi will write a series of novels that will require engagement and genuine effort on the part of the reader to understand. I can suggest Sound and the Fury, for instance, if you want to take a stab at Faulkner. James Joyce, an Irish writer, will publish Ulysses, I think in the early 1920s. Again, a fundamental challenge to traditional narration, dialogue, plot, character. So literary conventions are up in the air. And you can consult the photographs that we've included here for you. In music, I could play a piece by Beethoven or Bach or Brahms or Mozart, and whether you've heard it or not, it would be comfortable to you. The harmonies, the structure of the music would be familiar to you. In I believe it was 1913, Russian composer Igor Stravinsky debuted the Rite of Spring in Paris, and as I recall, there was a riot. The concert was shut down. The Parisian crowd took their displeasure to the streets. The reason for this is that the Rite of Spring does not sound like Western music or anything that we'd ever heard before. There's a great deal of cacophony. It's a violent sound at times. I urge you to simply YouTube the Rite of Spring and watch and listen to one of our symphony orchestras perform this music. And I believe you will be able to see, if you're not familiar with it, I believe you will hear the difference. So in music, as in economics, conventions are in flux. Of course, in politics, everything seems to be up in the air as well. Let's face it. 1917, Lenin creates the Soviet Union, the world's first communist state. By the 1920s, Lenin has passed. Joseph Stalin has taken his place, and he's creating, as he called it, socialism in one country. This is obviously a dramatically different model than what prevails in the Western democracies. A couple of other examples of how politics are in flux. In the early 20s, Benito Mussolini establishes a fascist government in Italy. Again, a model that runs counter to Western democratic market societies. And then, of course, most famously in 1932-33, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party come to power in Germany. These are all examples of how politics are in flux and the conventions are being challenged. You can see this in art as well. The standard portraiture, landscape painting that we're all familiar with is now going to be challenged. I'll give you two examples. Pablo Picasso, Spanish painter, and again, you can Google him and look at the paintings. You can look at a couple of examples that I've included here on the website, and you see the rise of Cubism, and you see the paintings have a point of view or a perspective that is very skewed, much different from what you're used to looking at. Whether you like it or not, you have to admit that it's quite different, quite revolutionary, and sort of throws all the traditional conventions of artistic or a painting out the window. Another example in painting would be Salvador Dalí. If Picasso introduces Cubism, then Dalí epitomizes surrealism. And again, you can take a look at some of the paintings that I've included here for you. I urge you to Google Dalí and look at more of his paintings. And you can see they're quite disturbing. They look like the creation of images from a very disturbed mind, or at least one under the influence of something. Nevertheless, they're very interesting and challenging to traditional conventions. Other conventions, prohibition, of course, is going to outlaw the manufacture, sale of alcohol in the United States. This, of course, is going to create a great irony. Prohibition, of course, is designed to improve society. The net result, of course, will be the rise of organized crime and corruption. Other conventions in flux, you see women are going to begin to cut their hair short, smoke cigarettes in public, drink, go to dance clubs, jazz clubs, speak openly of sex, wear slacks. Pants, of course, are gendered masculine. And for women to wear slacks is crossing the gendered line. Long hair is gendered feminine, short hair is gendered masculine. By cutting their hair short, women are transgressing expected gender roles. So this is just a variety of examples of how conventions are in flux. Everything seems to be up for grabs in the early and mid-1920s. Our next lecture, we'll look at the 20s in a little more focus. It's called the Roaring Twenties, and there's a reason for it. Americans are having a good time after the war. There's prosperity, at least for a time, and these conventions in flux make for a very turbulent decade. But we'll pick that up next time. Thank you.